Welcome everyone to another observability lab. We are back in building better dashboards. This is a follow-up session of the video that we did with Universal Tips and Tricks with Aleksandra Kunert. Hi Aleksandra, thank you so much for being back.
Hello Andy, and thank you for having me again here.
Yeah. Hey, in the first session, folks, if you have not watched this session, check out the link to the recording in the description of this video. You talked a lot about tips and tricks on how you took an existing dashboard that wasn't that impactful and converted it into something that when you look at it and you don't know all the details, you immediately had a better understanding. You were really good on giving examples. You looked into, I know you talked about your honeycombs, donut charts, making things explainable, putting information about timeframes on individual tiles if they differ from the global timeframe selector. And then you came back to me and said, hey, Andy, there's so much more I would like to talk about, picking the right colors, making sure that the dashboards are not overloaded. But Aleksandra, over to you. Please, we're working here again on the playground tenant, so everything you showed today and go into details is the same dashboard that we showed the last time.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you for the great recap. I was thinking about, using the full potential of this dashboard we have already and talk about the additional topics, like you mentioned, the color. So I would start with that. Color is so important, right? Because it can draw the attention of the end user to specific parts of the dashboards, especially if we talk about red and green, right? Red and green, if we talk about observability and performance monitoring, it's a very used two colors, right? And they have meanings. Like red means something, oh, something is wrong, I have to check this. And green means, oh, everything is great. So that is why I always emphasize that you should use these two colors with care, and they should only convey this message, like, oh, something is really wrong and you should have a look, or something is going great. So in this dashboard, we have this as well in the host availability donut chart, in the reboots, and yes, the memory and disk information in the honeycombs, the host with low availability, number of problems, right? So throughout all the dashboards, the user gets drawn to these important parts where more attention is required.
Yeah, and so that's great also for me. I mean, I'm not the best, to be honest with you, in picking colors, but obviously red means something is wrong or stop. Green always means something good, so don't mix and match the colors that people already have a kind of like a mental feeling for. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And while we talk about red and green, I just want to mention that there are people that cannot really differentiate between these two colors. So there are some statistics online, and you may have or may have not met a colleague like this. But if you are building dashboards for somebody else that should look as well in the dashboards, maybe also keep in mind about the color blindness topic. There are different types of color blindness, and there are simulators online. For example, for the red-green color blindness, usually you can use other colors to convey the similar message, which can be visible to the other person as well. And that would be using orange instead of red and using blue instead of green.
Okay, I did not know that. Thank you so much. I think you also have a link that we can share on more details. So folks, Aleksandra obviously has done a lot of research and worked in this field. So everything you're sharing today, check out the description in the video for that additional link. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, great. So let's move on a little bit more from green and red to the other colors. So essentially, it is important that you follow the same palette throughout your dashboard. Think about the colors you want to use. There are already a lot of ready-made palettes in Dynatrace. I really don't need to look for any other colors. I just go ahead and pick a palette from those. And when I use also other colors in the dashboard, when I want to introduce them, so like in the second donut chart, I chose blue for this one. And I didn't go with red and green. because it is a different message, right? It is nothing wrong if a host is in a discovery mode. And it is a different message, but it is like looking very similar visually to the first donut. So especially when we are showing similar visualizations, but also um, further than that, we should not use a color that is easily recognizable in multiple visualization if it's not the same information.
Yeah. Hey, Alexander, can you do me a favor and just show me where you can pick that color palette? Maybe click on one of these charts.
Yes, sure. Let's have a look in this one, the honeycomb. So there is a color like in every visual. In the visual tab, there we have the honeycomb chosen. But for all the visualization types, you can choose a color, and there are color palettes, like very different one. It is following the Dynatrace kind of color coding, like what you have in the platform. So usually these colors will fit anyways good in would look good in Dynatrace. And also I have one more tip about this. When you're using the colors, maybe you can already mention in this specific honeycomb, since I'm using a palette that is automatically getting assigned to the specific parts of the honeycomb, I first always do a sort. So I sort the items so that I get the reddest first or the reddest last if I want. And then automatically I get the next color for the ones. Also, I use the same thing in the honeycomb next to this one, because if I don't do a sort, maybe the red dot will be somewhere in the middle, and I want visually to be the first thing I look at.
Yeah, I remember that from our first video where you also had the same thing where you said, you don't, because you had two honeycombs and they were kind of showing, I think, disk problems and memory problems or host problems. And the honeycombs were not sorted. So you didn't really know, are all the disk problems in one host or are they spread across all the different hosts? And then we sorted it and it made much more sense. Yeah, cool tip.
Yeah, I actually use the same thing in the donut chart above in the blue one, so you can use it everywhere with the sorting. It is something I really like.
Cool. So that means from a color perspective, if I quickly recap, use the same colors if you want to transport the same message. Red, green typically means good or bad. If you have something different to visualize, like the status of your monitoring modes, in this case, what we have here, full stack, discovery, or just infrastructure, then red and green doesn't make sense because we would immediately assume we are showing an error status, but this is just a different type of information. Really cool. Yeah, thank you.
Great. I can maybe also share a few tips about this. Like now I chose blue. What are other colors that can be more neutral? It can be, for example, usually I use also purple or some kind of pink, some maybe not that like strong colors that can give a different message than, oh, good and bad. And also I would like to say, it's okay to use red and green because there is sometimes there is a trend, oh, don't use red and green, it means good or bad, but just use it with care and with intention.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Besides colors, what else can you tell us?
Yes, so this actually happened to me as well. I was creating a dashboard for well, another topic, but however, there was also hosts involved and services. And while I was doing it, I was in a POC phase, and we had maybe like 10 hosts only, and we had just a limited scope. And I created a great dashboard, like it looked good, but when it went productive, like when the client went full on, using I don't know 150 hosts, then the dashboard didn't look that well, and also it was not really usable because I didn't thought about what happens when I have the full load. So sometimes when you're creating a dashboard, you're starting with small things and then, oh, it looks good, but what about if more data comes in? We can talk about the problem table, for example. Here we have only 4 problems, but what if tomorrow we have 30, 40, 100, 200 problems? Do we really want to load the dashboard with such a big item? So thinking about this, I would suggest limiting the number of items that you put on the tables, let's say, because I don't think anyone likes to scroll for more than 10, 20, 30 items. Um, so I could say limit it to a certain amount, and if you do limit it, then put it also in the title, like I have done here, top 10 hosts based on network traffic. And yes, the same thing, which this is a line chart, applies to another chart, right? So not only tables, line charts, area charts, everything which, if you think about, oh, what if there were 100 of them? How would this look like, right? I would not suggest showing everything always. But when we talk about a good way to show a lot of data, what I really like, if in this case the number of hosts would increase, the honeycomb would still look good. So you would still get the overview with the honeycomb, or the donut chart would still look good, right? In these cases where we don't have that many dimensions, let's say, like offline running or full stack discovery infrastructure.
Yeah. So if I recap this, basically what you're saying, when you design a dashboard, you also need to have scalability in mind. And then scaling doesn't mean the screen resolution, but it means how does it scale if you have a lot of data items. Charts obviously easily get overloaded if you have 100 or 1,000 of lines in there. It doesn't make sense. There's nothing you can understand anymore. So that's a good thing. Keep also I like that tip again with the caption. So top 10 hosts. It is on that chart, so I know it's the top 10. Honeycomb scales pretty well because if there's 1,000 things and there's 1,000 honeycombs, I can still understand, do I have, is 1% red or is like 10% red? So that's always great. In terms of the top X, can you quickly show us how you're filtering the top X? Is this a feature that you use from the chart, or is it in the DQL query that you use?
Oh, for this one, I just use a limit 10. Like I limit the number of the items depending on what you want to do. If you want to show the host in this case with highest number of network traffic or whatever, then first sort, like also like I do up here. But if you want to show anything, then you don't even have to sort, because then you can limit directly after doing the query, or put a limitation in the query limits as well to keep the query smaller. And also if you use joins or lookup or whatever, first filter, first limit, and then join with the next one, I would say, so that even if tomorrow there are 200 costs, that it is still saying something, the visualization, and it's not overloaded.
Yeah, I also remember one tip you gave me in the first video, because if you filter out, the question is, do I see 10 out of 11 or do I see 10 out of 10,000? I think this is where last time you said the pie chart is really good, because the pie chart allows you to say how many hosts do you actually have and how many of them are, for instance, displayed here now, right? How many of them are meeting a certain criteria? So folks, I can really encourage you to watch the other video where Aleksandra did a great job in giving some best practices, especially for people like me that I'm just not really gifted with creating dashboards well, but you gave me some really good tips so far. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Andi, as well. And I think with using these guidelines, everyone can create good dashboards, right? So dashboards that give information, not just shows things fancy and colorful.
Yeah. Hey, I got another question for you, because I wanted to understand. You have the chart or the table there. It's called average memory usage per hosts greater than 90%. And I also see that one of the columns, the memory average, is highlighted in red. So can you just quickly tell me how this works, how you can configure this? And I would also just be interested in, do you filter, where do you filter, where do you sort, how do you make this color go red?
Actually, this is not some magic I have done. It is a built-in feature in Dynatrace. So I think in this case, I did thresholds, right? It's a simple threshold settings. You have this on many visuals. So you can just add your thresholds and say which column you want. In this case, I want the color where I have the average memory, and then set what color I want to have for which amount. And adding this to a table is so helpful, because it's the first thing I see, as well as it's the first thing I see in the visualization, the honeycomb left to it. So I can quickly see what it is, and I can jump into the host overview of this specific host if I want. And also in this case, I have sorted the table. So in the same way, on the left side. So it is the
first element.
thing.
Yeah, that's good. That's also, remember that, right? If you display the same data in multiple different visualizations, make sure you sort it the same way. So the first item is always the same. Yeah. I also see in the problems table on the top, there is the closed and the severity, or the status and the severity.
Yeah.
It actually uses the background color instead of the text. And I know I guess it's a built-in feature that you have, but can you just quickly show me again how this would work from a configuration perspective?
Yeah. So it's the same thing, like it's a built-in thing with thresholds. So you can just select the field that you want. And these are the two fields I have added. And because the thing is, here you have words. That's why the background gets colored. But in the other case, I had numbers, so it's easier to read. This is not something I chose, right? It was something.
Cool. And then can you do me a favor? Just click back to the other settings, not the X, but back on the general settings. And I think if you expand, is it the columns or the cells where you can actually specify, is it how the data is visualized, or maybe it's in the cells. I wanted to understand, is there a setting where you can say how the threshold is visualized? I think that's where it is. But the threshold color,
yes, you can select this. Actually, I think I didn't even select this because it was already like this selected in the default. So I have not done this setting, but actually, yes.
Yeah, but this is where you could switch between color the value, like we have in the average memory usage table that you showed earlier, or color the background, right? And just out of curiosity, can you just click on value just so we see how it looks like? Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
Right, that's the difference. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And I would say it requires more reading time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And thanks for following my lead, because I'm just eager to learn and see how things are configured. So colors, then the sorting is important. Don't overload things with data by filtering, only showing the top. Any other tips and tricks that you have?
I have maybe two more. So actually, this table, I found it in a different dashboard in the playground, and I was like, this looks good. And then I changed the query. I made it work for my dashboard. I don't always create from scratch. Actually, this is my last option to create from scratch. There's so much already done. So you can just get inspired or just copy the tile. You can always do that from different dashboards. Just copy and paste and adapt it to your needs. So that's why for me, the background was always, in the color. I always check what is there first. And that way I'm faster creating dashboards. So this is one thing I would encourage everyone to do. Use the resources there already are. And also the ready-made dashboards from Dynatrace. You always get them in every tenant. And maybe one more topic.
Maybe one quick thing. How can you copy things over? Can you just do a copy and then that's it?
You can just copy, or you can just do it with the keyboard. You can copy on the three dot and click with the mouse, or you can do it in the keyboard. And you can also duplicate here, but it gets duplicated in the same dashboard. But use this as well.
So basically, copy means it copies the definition of that tile into my clipboard, and then you can go to any dashboard and just paste it in. That's awesome. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, completely. And when we talk about things that everyone has in their tenant, like problems, everyone has these entities. We don't talk about special business events, right? You will always get the tile in your tenant, even if you copy it from the playground, so you don't have to care for that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So the second thing, what I would like to maybe touch on this topic, and maybe we continue somewhere else in deeper on another session, is interactivity. So because when people talk about dashboards, they're like, oh, it should be fancy, it should have funky colors, it should be clickable, you should do things with it. So people tend to add interactions to dashboards, and it is very, very crucial that the interactions that are possible with the dashboards are intentional and really bring value to the dashboard. In this case, we have the filtering up here on the host groups. You can add more filters, right? But those should be really filters that make sense for this dashboard. Or what we have is also links for the problem card. When I say this links for the problem card, this is also a great thing because you want to find out the details of the problems, or you can click and open items, entities in every part of the dashboard using another app. This is also something to consider, not to recreate new things that already are somewhere in Dynatrace. For example, here, never I show all the metrics for one single host and you can choose the single host because we already have the app for that. So just think about interactions. They're very important. They should be included. If you ask me, in every dashboard, there should be some kind of interactivity and some kind of a next step. And yes, but just keep it intentional and reuse the things. The apps you can always refer to from the dashboard, right?
Yeah. And just to also show people, for those that maybe don't know, if we look at the, let's say the host, the average memory usage, that table again, you can click on a host and with the three dots, you can always do an open with. So folks, right, open with basically then opens up the options of which app does make sense, which app can deal with the information in that table, in that row. And if there's a host ID, an entity host, then obviously it shows up the infrastructure and operations. And I think if you would do the same thing in a different table that shows different data, let's say services or trace IDs, then the distributed traces app would show up with the services app. That's cool. And Aleksandra, one more thing. If you close this one here, because I really like the links directly in that problems table. And we may have shown this the last time, but if you can do me a favor and just exactly show this, how the ID column is actually clickable.
Yeah, you can create a URL in the DQL. So this is the part where the magic happens. You can have the link. So you can just get this style, copy it, and adjust it to the link you need to open. It doesn't have to be, a Davis problem. Here we have to add the event ID of the Davis problem in the end of the URL. But if you want to open a host overview or whatever, you can just have a look when you open the app, what is the link shown? So this would be different if you want to use something else instead of a problem, and then add the ID, which you can also see while you're browsing the tenant. So you can just go ahead to this dashboard, copy the tile, and just adjust the link to your needs.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think for me, so basically what we're creating here is Markdown. That means if you know Markdown, you can do whatever you want with Markdown. You can be very creative with the title or the text of the link and the link itself. The link, if it's relative here, it starts with /UI apps, then it's relative to your Dynatrace tenant. That means it just, as you said, opens up a different view, a different app. But this also allows you to link to external resources, right? I've seen people that are showing problems and their ServiceNow tickets, and then there's one click and then it opens up, for instance, ServiceNow or any other tool that you have, or maybe GitHub, GitLab, whatever you have. And Aleksandra, just one more thing, just because the field itself is a text, basically Markdown, I know you were copy and pasting it, but you can also configure that this column should be visualized with the Markdown style. And I think it's on the Visuals tab, right? That's where, exactly.
I think, where have we done it?
It's up there in the column section. You can see where it says ID. And then on the far right, next to it, this is where you can specify how this column in the table should be interpreted and visualized. Should it be just text, a number, or on the very bottom, it's a Markdown?
Yes, and when I see this, it comes to my mind. You can also like use a visualization inside the table, which is also good when you have a table with like for we have the memory usage host, right? If you want to show the actual one, it is also a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, dashboards are super powerful. Kudos also to the product team. There's so many people that work on it, but I want to quickly highlight Thomas Ziegelbecker, who is one of the PMs, the lead PM. There's also more stuff coming. But Aleksandra, just because we have great dashboard technology doesn't mean we can build great dashboards, but getting the insights and the best practices from you with the colors, making sure these are scalable, this is just super helpful. And thank you so much for doing this video session with me. I do hope we do more of these because I'm sure you have more up your sleeves. Anything that we missed today, or is this kind of wrapping it up?
I think this is wrapping it up, and I would say keep tuned for the next topics.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. And folks, remember, watch the first video we did. Check out the links we posted. Every link is available in the description of this video. But for now, build good dashboards. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.